Radio 91.7 FM. Radio Doctor is Nigeria's first specialized health program where medical doctors consult and advise you for free on Women Radio. 91.7. The program airs 10 a.m. Mondays through Friday. And today's program is proudly powered by TeleDoc, a secure digital platform that allows you to consult verified doctors anytime, anywhere. With TeleDoc, you can book a quick consultation, 10 minutes, or a full consultation for 30 minutes. And you get to choose your preferred time. You get to join a secure video call within the app. You get to upload your medical records and receive prescriptions digitally after your consultation. And every Wednesday, and Thursday, we feature trusted doctors from the TeleDoc network to answer your health questions live. Okay, my name is Femi Bagala, but I'm not here alone. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Demi. I think Demi's network is glitchy. Hi, Demi.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, good. How are you? It's good to see you.
I'm fine, thank you. You too. My name is Demi Koya, and it's great to have you join us today as we discuss an important health topic that affects many families and community. Our radio doctor for today is Dr. Justina Adeosun, a metabolic health and lifestyle medicine specialist with Vital Bloom Weight Loss and Wellness.
The phone lines will be open shortly for you to ask your questions. Once again, this is Women Radio 91. The time is 4 minutes after 10. This is Radio Doctor on Women Radio 91.7, your one and only radio station for their families. And like Debbie has said, our doctor today is Dr. Justina Adeosun, a metabolic health and lifestyle medicine specialist with Vital Bloom Weight Loss and Wellness. My eyes stuck on the weight loss because I need to lose some weight, so maybe she can help me life. Anyway, let's get into it. You can call us on 07000 when the phone lines are open, 07000 917 917 or 09155 917 917. Send us a text message via our website. Send us a text message on 0703 1756 537 or 09155 917 917. We are live on YouTube at WFM 917, and you can listen to us live via our website www.wfm917.com. Okay, Demi, over to you.
All right, so now let's be honest. How many times have we heard someone say it just happened? I suddenly developed high blood pressure. The diabetes came out from nowhere. But is that really true, or are these conditions quietly building up over time through things we eat, how we sleep, how we move, and even how we handle stress? Today's topic is one that concerns all of us. Lifestyle diseases are not sudden. How daily habits shape long-time health. We're talking about conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and more, often called silent killers because they develop without obvious symptoms. Good morning, doctor. Welcome to Radio Doctor. Are you here with us?
Yes, I am. I don't know if you can hear me. My video is acting up.
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Demilade, and good morning to everyone, every woman and every family who's tuning in to Women FM 91.7. What a pleasure to be here on Radio Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's dive straight into the questions. Doctor, what exactly are lifestyle diseases?
Right, so I get this question all the time. Lifestyle disease is any condition that's primarily caused or significantly worsened by the way we live. So our daily habits, our environment, our choices over time. That is simply, in simple terms, what lifestyle. The major ones we often will see in clinical practice will be type 2 diabetes. The body can no longer manage sugar properly, hypertension, which is persistently high blood pressure that strains the heart, obesity, which we all now know is not just a weight issue, but a metabolic condition with serious consequences. Then cardiovascular diseases, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, metabolic symptoms. So Now, what do all of these have in common? As Demilade has said, they all develop very silently over time, and they're all deeply to how we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we manage stress, and the kind of substances that we take in. So basically, those are lifestyle diseases. I don't know if I can jump into some stats, Demilade, to start to give some stats. The World Health Organization tells us that non-communicable diseases, which is the clinical umbrella for lifestyle diseases, now account for 3 in 4 deaths globally. So let's let this sink in. That means 3 out of 4 people who die worldwide are dying from conditions that are largely preventable, right? Let's bring this home, because this is home. A lot of people in my clinic, they'll say, oh, well, that's a Western thing. Those don't concern us. We don't have these issues, but the data is telling us something very different in Nigeria. Hypertension is affecting 30 to 40%, 3 to 5 Nigerian adults said to have high blood pressure, and many don't even know it because it has no symptoms until something serious happens. Sometimes a stroke, sometimes a heart failure or kidney damage. 9 out of 10 times when I see a woman in my clinic, it's got to do with diabetes. So type 2 diabetes is rising rapidly, particularly in urban populations. Obesity rates as well, especially among women, is climbing year on year. And what is driving this? You know, our sedentary desk job, long hours sitting down in traffic, tell me about it. And also processed and fast food. So chronic stress, poor sleeps, these are now our realities, not just a Western problem.
Thank you, doctor. So, doctor, why do many people feel like this condition just appears suddenly?
You know, a lot of people think about it that it just happens suddenly, because the way it goes, if I like to describe this to my patients using like the iceberg effect, you know, a disease on diagnosis day, a lot of people think it's just that day. It started on that very day when you got the diagnosis, when you just saw the tip of the iceberg. But underneath, this is something that has been accumulating over time. Think about it. Our body scores for everything that we do. Every meal, every night you do not sleep properly, every stressful week with no recovery, our bodies keep score. Over 5 years, over 10 years, that score then becomes your health status, right? We all like compound interest. That's another simple way I like to explain it, especially when it's working in our favor in investment, in savings. Little interest compounds and becomes, you know, these things. So a lot of people don't know that these things are already quietly happening in their bodies, because to understand it is a daily build up, right? I say it's a silent build up, because as you said, people will hear it. Sometimes the first time is when something really serious has happened. Let me walk this back biologically. Like when we repeatedly make certain lifestyle choices, you know, eating high processed food, high sugar, being sedentary. So what starts to happen silently and quietly in the body is something medically we call inflammation. It's very low grade. It's not like infection, it's anything, but it's already damaging blood vessels, already stressing organs, disrupting stuff. And then next will come insulin resistance, which gradually the cells will stop responding properly to insulin, the hormone that manages blood sugar. Your body will work harder and harder to compensate. So for years, the fasting blood sugar will be looking normal, and a lot of this tests may still pop up normal. Then the dangerous one is the visceral fat. That's the fat, the deep one that's stored around our organs, particularly in our abdomen. It starts to accumulate. You see, that fat is not just passive, you know, that fat is also, it's hormonally active. It's also releasing some inflammatory chemicals. So after 5 or 10 years of or 15 years of this happening, one morning a test result is just going to come across, and then the doctor is just going to say, oh, you have diabetes or you have high blood pressure, but the disease did not start, that morning, right? It is, again, like I said, compound interest. It's compounding and compounding, working against your health, and every day, one day the bill is just going to arrive.
Wow. Oh, that was a lot, doctor. Okay. Are these diseases affecting young people more than before, or this is how it's been?
It's affecting more people, more young people. And I think the thing is that the reasons, I don't have deep statistics for how different it is, but I've seen quite as more younger people are having this. Just provide, again, if you're making those choices, the drivers for this, and once those drivers are in place, regardless of age, more younger people there, due to more urbanization, there's more people sitting very, very, very long hours at our desk, chronic stress. Don't get me started on that, in terms of if you're in a city, like a very urban city like Lagos, so we are seeing it across, there isn't really much difference, and we're seeing younger and younger people coming down with these lifestyle diseases.
Thank you, doctor. So how much of a role does genetics play compared to lifestyle in such situations?
You know what? I get this question all the time. It's every time somebody says, oh, it runs in my family, so there's really nothing much I can do about it. And I sit across them and I say, look, genetics has the loaded gun, and your lifestyle is going to pull the trigger. So if you look at it that way, and there's whole new epigenetics, don't get me started on our new fields that are telling us about how we can turn off and turn on things with our genetics. So yes, there's the part for the genetic, but largely lifestyle still plays a large role in this.
Okay. So if in the genetics the parents have diabetes, it's almost certain that the child will have diabetes then.
You have to be intentional if there's obviously a family history. I mean, in the clinic, if we're taking speaking to someone, one of the red risk factor is if someone has mentioned there is a family history of diabetes, there is a family history of hypertension. So therefore it is there. I would advise that if that history is there, you are then much likely to be much more intentional. I've seen people whose parents have had that, and they've gone on to live life, without it. So again, like I said, genetics is the gun, lifestyle is the trigger.
I think for me, I'm just always bothered about how me, I'm an innocent being. You're the one that gave birth to me, but I'm going to be punished for something that you have, or something that you got from your mother, or something that you did that you have as a result of your poor lifestyle habits. Has my own insight, but okay. But you talk about
why is your accountability there? When we talk about the drivers, you're going to see how much of a role that you are playing with that.
I'm not there. I'm not inside. Why am I being punished for? I'm not inside. No. And this is where I'm going to, because of course I like what I like. I like good food. I like fried food. I was telling a doctor 2 weeks ago, I think I said, look, I can be eating healthy. I try to eat healthy. I haven't eaten healthy in the last 2 weeks though, because I wasn't around. Calories on holiday don't count at all, in my opinion. But before that, I was eating healthy. But I said to him, plantain is where I draw the line. You cannot take my plantain from me. Like, I could eat maybe a sandwich with avocado and boiled egg or something. Very boring food, but healthy for me, Abby. But you see, plantain, that's where we draw the line. I eat my plantain. I don't care what anybody says. Because at the end of the day, too much of everything is no good. Might as well not eat again. But anyway, here's what I'm going through. How does diet, right, especially like processed foods, sugar, and salt, how do they affect, lifestyle, affect your health long term?
So from a lifestyle standpoint, we kind of look at like major drivers for this lifestyle
Yeah.
diseases, and top of that is nutrition, and it's
Mhm.
very, very simple. It's not necessarily eating too much. It's just like specifically eating too many refined, too many
Mhm.
carbohydrates, too much sugar. Remember when it's insufficient fiber, inadequate nutrients, micronutrients. So remember when I talked about the stages, and I said what they do is they will drive that inflammation that I was talking about, that insulin resistance more than anything else. So our diet is sitting on top largely as one of the drivers for this. And most times when I'm speaking to people in the clinic, one of the first things I address is, what are you eating? We do a dietary recall. And the question is, oh, like you said, I don't want to give up plantain. I don't want to give up this. I don't. So the thing is, it's not really giving up on these things, is looking at swaps and looking at preparing them a little bit differently. So that is where comes in. But nutrition is one of the top drivers. And if I may quickly run through all the other drivers, so that nutrition doesn't get the diet doesn't get the number one, or is not the only thing that people walk away with as the issues here. The other drivers are physical inactivity. Our bodies were just designed to move. So the modern life where we are, just the desk job, just sitting down, has made prolonged sitting the norm. And research is telling us the sitting for extended periods is indeed more harmful than even if you get to exercise on that day. So there's research that say that even if you sit down, if you sit for 8 to 10 hours and then still go to the gym for 1 hour, something is still, has your metabolism has been harmed on that day. So your movement just needs to be woven. 3, chronic stress. This is one thing people underestimate. When you're stressed and when you're chronically stressed, your body will produce a hormone called our primary stress hormone, which is cortisol. And again, sustained levels of these goes back again to cause more fat storage, causes more blood sugar, go back again into that station. It just goes in that cycle. So stress is not just an emotional thing, it's profoundly psychological.
Mhm.
Then poor sleep. Sleep is where our bodies repair itself, right? Where your hormones get regulated, where your blood sugar then gets balanced. That inflammation I was talking about, it gets resolved then, your brain is clearing metabolic waste. So when you don't sleep properly, all of these processes get disrupted. So poor sleep also drives your hunger hormones. We have the hunger hormones, and then we have the hormone that tells us we're full. It messes up with the dynamics of that, promotes weight gain, worsens the insulin resistance, I'm saying. And then obviously the last one I like to is alcohol and smoking. So
Okay.
those come on there as well. Right. So what is more important to understand, that all of these drivers, they don't work in isolation. They're all together and they form a very vicious circle, right? Poor sleep will drive stress. Chronic stress will drive you to want to eat more unhealthy food. Poor nutrition will drive your fatigue and make you have low energy. Low energy will make you inactive. Inactive will then worsen. So it's just, the cycle just goes round and round and round. So, and that's why lifestyle medicine is not about fixing one thing. I just thought it was important to put it out there, because most times diet gets like the major thing, top.
Yeah. I want to take you back to where you say our bodies were not designed to just be inactive. I would like you to speak to that, because Nigeria, the current state of, maybe, let me use Lagos for example, doesn't necessarily encourage walking. So for instance, people don't know how to walk. Like you can enter a bus at any place. You can enter keke, you can get a bike from any place. If you have a car, that's even worse, because if maybe the nearby supermarket is in front of your estate, you rather just drive there. How do we begin? How can we begin to reorientate people's minds to say, look, physical activity is important? Because there's also of course, there's been a surge in people going to the gym, but then the gym fees are not smiling. At the same time, if you're earning a certain amount of money, you're thinking, how do I want to reduce this one because I want to go to the gym? When there's children, there's husband, there's wife, there's all the other things there. So how do we reorientate our minds in terms of, you can maybe walk in the compound, maybe you can walk in your estate, you can take a walk instead of doing this. Do we have to do 1 hour at a go? Can it just be 20 minutes per day? Things like that. I would like to speak to that.
I'm so happy that you asked this question. It's so great, because every time I talk about movement, the first thing someone tells me, Doc, am I going to go register in the gym? And I'm telling them it is not about gym membership. It's just doing what your body was designed to do, moving consistently, right? So as I said, there's growing research which is talking about seating disease. When we sit for such a long time, typically what I would say to people is just be consistent. Like you said, what I find with people is that they go to the gym, it's not woven around their lifestyle. Like you said, a busy mom, busy executive, had long hours at work. It's not woven around. Many workplaces don't yet have gyms, so it's not really woven. How am I going to do that? What I say to people is, instead of sitting for long hours at work, simple thing is, after about 60 minutes, stand up and kind of like working place at work. These days, there's the emergence of the standing desk. After some time, you stand up and at your desk, take the staircase instead of, using the elevator at work. I don't know. I know some people sitting pretty on that, just take your time and do that. One of the favorite things I say to mom, especially busy moms at home, the show, when you're watching your show, during every advert break, stand up and walk in place. That becomes more like a lifestyle. So you're sitting and watching your favorite show. It's at time, you stand up, you walk in place, or you hear music, you dance to the beats. So it then becomes, your body is just moving one way or the other, regardless. Because look, WHO has said we need to be doing 15,000 now. I think it's 12,000 is now 15,000 steps, so we don't want to be, my advice is not putting all of these, in that 1 hour, so just small daily things. Again, I'll bring back that compound interest. Small movements across the day is going to compound and just be better. And let me just speak to what movement does for our body, because people don't really understand this, and so that I can explain this. Like, when you do physical activity, your more glucose is taken into your cells independent of insulin. So your muscle can pull sugar out of your bloodstream. So even if someone has insulin resistance, so this is one of the most powerful naturally blood sugar lowering mechanism. I often will also advise patients, after a meal, do a 10-minute walk. If you can walk in your neighborhood, just walk around, walk in place. So I have nothing against gym memberships, by the way. I am registered as a gym, but I just wanted to put that out there. But I just would rather have people be consistent, little consistent every day, because this is something is a lifestyle. So you have to do this every day, for the rest of your life. So it has to be very, quite woven in nicely in there.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Before I hand over to Demi, you mentioned that it's a vicious cycle. So it's like poor sleep causes poor stress causes stress rather, then of course food, fatigue, and like it just keeps on going round and round and round like that. How can we, because I'm going to use Lagos as an example again, because I live in Lagos, or let me use Nigeria. Nigeria is stressful, number one. So people get to work before they are awake, is how I can put it. Maybe you start work at 8 a.m. You have to leave your house maybe 6 or maybe 5, depending on the distance from your house to your office. You leave the office at maybe 5 or 6, and then before you get home is maybe 8 or 9. Then you get home and then you eat dinner because you haven't eaten. Maybe when you went to the office, the only time you ate was maybe lunchtime, 2 o'clock, and it was in a rush or so. You get home and you're like, I'm hungry, I have to eat. So that, of course, is poor nutrition for you. And typically what happens is once people get home, they maybe change, they eat, they sleep. So when you say, oh, it's eat and then do a 10-minute walk, they're like, look, I just want to sleep because the day has stressed me. How can someone manage this kind of situation? I don't want to say this is an extreme because this is literally people's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the average Nigerian's life. You especially if you don't have the luxury I'll call it, you don't get to work from home. That's literally the life of the average Nigerian. How can they manage their health with this kind of, I don't like what this is what them. Yeah.
I get you. You don't have to, we all live in it. There's financial stress, relationship, work stress, traffic stress, all
Absolutely.
parenting stress if you've got kids, so
Yeah.
there is quite a lot of stress. So, from a lifestyle standpoint, and what I advise is often, first of all, identify your stressor, and then differentiate what is within your control. Energy spent on what you cannot control is just building cortisol unnecessarily, right? And again, this is advice I'm still giving myself because it is easier said than done, but it is a skill that can be built. So what is causing me stress? What are my stressors? I put them into categories. What can I control in the immediate? What can't I control? So for example, I'll say, if it's somebody saying coming back home doing like housework, I'm speaking to a lot of moms. I see a lot of women in my service. I'm like, well, if you can outsource that and you can afford it, outsource it, because that is one less, thing, stressor that you can control. So these days I have to rush out to get to I have to sit in traffic for 4 hours to get to my child's PTA. Request if they can give you a virtual session. So control what you can control. That would be the first. I just identify the stressors and then differentiate what is within your control. Now, I also talk to people about deliberate relaxation. Research is very, very clear on these. It activates our nervous system, that rest and repair, right? So practice deep breathing. There are several breathing exercises for stress. Practice those ones. Slow, deliberate breathing. There's the box breathing. There's 4-4-4. Before you let it all out. Practice those breathing. Believe it or not, prayer and meditation is, are quite good stress reduction. If you can, walking in nature, it helps. Walk around, going to those. I typically will go down to, I live on the mainland, so I'll sometimes go down to University of Lagos and walk along the waterfront. I try to do that from time to time. It's just nice and quiet and peaceful and calm there. I wish I can take that with me. So walking in nature. A lot of us also don't journal, have a journal for gratitude. Sometimes we're so focused on all the things that are not really working right, and then we're not really. So that would be my second, deliberate relaxation practices. Then social connections. Again, I cannot overemphasize this. Loneliness and isolation, all this. I'm just always indoors all the time. Believe it, sometimes we're outside is good. We're outside with friends and families, strong social bonds is actually one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, like strong social connection. So friendships, community, faith community, volunteer, they are good for our health. Nigeria has a very rich community culture, we can lean into that, right? The fourth thing will be set boundaries around your work and technology. I find some people there constantly on. Like, you know, the way our brains have now been wired, even while we're sleeping, we're thinking about that unresolved email or stuff like that, you know. That constant connectivity is keeping our nervous system in a state of alertness all the time. So intentionally disconnect, you know, even if it's for an hour a day, disconnect. Oftentimes I advise people an hour before you go to bed, just disconnect from technology. And I also advise people, like, when you wake up in the morning, don't let your phone be the first thing that you grab, you know, like, also, you know, meditate and speak into your day before you just going to see emails or work or anything from that. And then also professional support. You know, a lot of people believe, like, there's stress, and then there's next levels, anxiety, depression. Those are medical conditions, and it's important that people understand that those are not character weaknesses, and they do need medical support for that. So if this has gone on and you do believe it's going on for too long and it's something significant, it's not a sign of weakness, it's time to then seek professional support. There is no medal for suffering silently. Those will be my stress management tips.
Okay, thank you so much. Debbie, over to you.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, for someone who may need more personalized advice beyond today's discussion, how can they take the next step?
Great question. TeleDoc, TeleDoc has, not speaking only for myself, has an array of medical specialists that you can consult. Also, and it's quite easy, if you ask me, just setting up the appointment. I'm on the platform as well. So it's quite easy for those who want personalized to get on the platform, and it's as easy as it's getting that app and then setting it up. I do have, I don't know the limits of what is allowed on this. My service, Vital Bloom, for people to reach out. Again, getting on TeleDoc is there, searching me out on at Vital Bloom Plus, and people can reach out. And my service is largely tailored for women, because for a long time I figured out that, you know, women just don't pour into themselves enough. They pour into everyone else, and then they're often last. So I find a number of people saying, oh, well, I want to come along. I was like, oh, well, fine, but just understand that my service is largely designed for women, understanding the biology of women. Yeah.
Demi, do I get free session with Dr. Justina?
You definitely get a free session.
So yes, please sign me up.
That's fine. You can consult Dr. Justina Adeosun and other verified doctors securely on TeleDoc from the comfort of your home. All you just need to do is download the TeleDoc app, search for Dr. Justina Adeosun, and book at your preferred time and have a consultation.
Absolutely. The phone lines are now open.
And it's important to add from anywhere, by the way, anywhere in the world. So this is actually very exciting from anywhere.
Yes. I mean, if you get to bypass, you know, having to go to a physical hospital, which I personally don't like going to the hospital because the wait time, sometimes the receptionist, people at the desk, sometimes they can be very somehow. I'm not even talking public government hospital, I'm talking private hospitals, and it can just be somehow, and then you are just angry, right? So yeah, like what Demi and Dr. Justina have said, you get to book from anywhere in the world that you are. You got a problem, just go on the TeleDoc app and book a session, and then boom, you get to even see your diagnosis and your prescription, as opposed to how Nigerian doctors don't like to tell you what it is wrong with you. Like, oh, we'll tell you it, or whatever it is, but you get that on the TeleDoc app. Okay, the phone lines are now open. This is RadioDoctor, and we're discussing lifestyle diseases are not sudden, and how daily habits shape long-term health. So if you have questions about how to take care of yourself, what you need to do, maybe you even want to call to say, please, I don't understand the TeleDoc app, call us on 07000 917 917 or 9155 917 917, or our toll-free line 0800-123-5917. You can text or WhatsApp us on 0703-1756537 or 08155-917-917. And Dr. Justina is here to answer your questions. Okay, Demi, over to you.
All right, Doc. So what are some of the early warning signs that people often ignore in such situations?
Look, like we said, that a number of these things are very, very silent. Anything with about 7 stages before someone gets into that full blown diagnosis. So I'll typically will say, if you find yourself having low energy, tired, brain fog, obviously when you do your health checks and if your sugar has been said to be elevated. These days, for example, speaking to diabetes, there's now there's a range, it's not new, of pre-diabetes where it's said that is the stage where you're not fully meeting the classifications of being diabetic. So running this, there's really understanding your body. Thing is, as we have been discussing all along, some of them are just so silent, just so, like stop. Also, know your numbers. I'm speaking to women, for example, and talking to adults, and I'm like, oh, blood pressure. I'm very educated, if I'm to use that word. Don't know what their blood pressure, don't know what normal is. So someone just pops up, oh, they said my blood pressure was high. So I'm asking, what was it? What's the figure? Like, I did say to you something like that. What was that figure? So know the numbers for what elevated blood pressure is, what the normal blood sugar ranges are, what lipid profiles are. I go into also things like waist circumference. That tells us how much fat you're carrying around your abdomen. So there's all of those stats that people have to be aware of. I think for males it should be less than 90 and women less than 81, something like that. I'll check that. But you need to know all of that. What, like your weights and your stats. So knowing your numbers and understanding those, don't ignore some of those symptoms. I'm just always tired. It's the stress of Lagos. Please go check it out. And again, TeleDoc is here. So like you were saying, you don't have to deal with, even though everyone is not like that, you don't have to deal with hospital staff. But no, it's what booking and just saying this doesn't feel right, again, because as we said, a lot of them are just silent, and then boom, you get that diagnosis. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Doc. Just to take you back, you mentioned knowing about your numbers. So if you're generally given, what routine health checks should adults be doing regularly?
So again, because this lifestyle and the whole connections, I'll stick to what I would say recommend for the lifestyle diseases will be check your blood pressure, also check your blood sugar, then check that's the test called the lipid profile. That's where we know what the cholesterol, the good lipids, the good fat that you have, or the bad fat, we want to know what the ratio is. So it's important to check all of those and check what your total cholesterol, those will be like the very bare basic. I would say that everyone needs to know. Obviously, know your weight, do your waist circumference, and if you're speaking and consulting at a lifestyle clinic, your waist hip ratio will be done for you, and all of those statistics. Speaking to a lifestyle doctor, calculations can then be done for what your cardiovascular risk is over a 10-year period. So having that consultation is kind of quite important. But basically, every adult should be able to, snap of your finger, what's your blood pressure, what's your blood sugar, so that you can be on top of that. But remember, like we had mentioned over and over again, just because those appear normal right now doesn't mean that something is not already, going on. So having those consultation with a specialist is quite important.
Okay. So how often should we then check like our blood pressure and blood sugar?
So it's 6 months, but if you've been told, for example, that your blood pressure was high, and for many reasons, it doesn't mean on that one day and just that one time you went to the clinic that your blood pressure was high. Most times in the clinic, it will be repeated over time. The reading will have to be gotten over a set number of times for it to then be said, okay, you are now having high blood pressure. The blood tests, they're usually smart on, spot on, they tell you. If that's okay, some people come back to on some of our programs and reversal programs that we run on Vital Bloom, with people repeating them at 3 to 6 months, but generally 6 months to a year will be the advice I'll have for those. People often have their annuals and then they do that. Again, I'm very, very aware of costs, especially in the environment like ours, but it is important that the cost of not, like the bill coming up of not checking, so anything 3 to 6 months basically depends on what's going on with you.
Okay, thank you so much. Excuse me. My question would be, let's talk about solutions as we round up. Lifestyle medicine, which is something that is your forte, really. How is it different from traditional treatment?
So with lifestyle medicine, in the sense that what we prescribe largely is your lifestyle and making lifestyle modifications. Don't get me wrong, I'm a medical doctor. Those drugs, have to be taken, but we do have 6 pillars and we work around those, and that's what we kind of like prescribe. I did speak about them earlier, diets. And so, for example, when I first speak to someone who has just gotten a diagnosis of being diabetic, we go into the diets, we try to make them low carbs as well. There's also the dietary approach to stop hypertension, which is a confirmed research evidence-backed diet for hypertension. So the diet is one area, but like we say, we don't try to fix only that one thing, we do that. And there's several trials that have been done, particularly for type 2 diabetes, for hypertension, even for cardiovascular diseases, where research has shown, very peer-reviewed published research has shown that diet has gone on to help reverse some of these numbers and reverse the status. So I've seen in my service women who have coming type 2 diabetes, again, depending, like I said, it's a stage all the way from 0 to 6. And if someone is caught around to like a stage 2, which is early, no signs, there's very, very high chances of reversing, and you find that we're able to reverse that. So there's the diet, quite important. It's a very, very important aspect of what we then look into. Again, I talk about sleep, and I tell most people sleep for anything between 7 to 9 hours is the average sleep. And most times people say to me, Doc, how am I supposed to sleep? But don't you live in Lagos? Don't you understand that? Yeah, yes, but I keep saying sleep is so vital. It's such a vital part. So anything from 5 to 7 hours of 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what lifestyle medicine will recommend. coming back and swinging back to diet, limiting the processed food, limiting the refined carbs as well. Those are very, very key. The third pillar in lifestyle medicine I like to speak about is the movement. I spoke about it. Movement, getting ourselves moving actively, moving across the day, moving after meals, post-meal walks. Just being consistent, small movements across the day is also important. Avoidance of toxic substances. I know this is smoking and alcohol. A number of people do tell me, will say, well, doc, I take the one glass so that I can sleep.
I'm a social drinker.
So they say that, and I'm like, well, let's look at it. It doesn't, yes, it gets you to sleep quicker, but it messes up with that restorative sleep that you need, which makes you wake up again tired. So really, it's just, that's really in the small benefits you do think that you get from that. And again, it's different. Social drinkers are not drinking weekly, daily, monthly. Some people are really using that to cope. So this is quite different. Although we do have Nigeria has a large what's it called, strong social drinking culture where people are just binge drinking. So I would also strongly often advise that drink a lot of water and make sure. Also, research has come in and saying smoking is, particularly women, I would say it's a no-no, and a lot of women are on hormonal contraceptives and they're also still smoking. That's such a not such a good mix. So my advice will be to not smoke. Then people will say things like, okay, I'm taking shisha. It's supposed to be, its research is showing that it is worse off because it does have more toxic substances, so avoiding all of that. Social connection is quite important for us as well in lifestyle medicine. Stress management, I've mentioned as well. So basically, those are our pillars, and that's what we do slightly differently from in this lifestyle medicine specialty.
Wow. I mean, my next question would be, have you had any cases of where any of these diseases were reversed from lifestyle medicine?
Yes, we have. At Vital Bloom, we run protocols all the time. We do have a diabetes reversal protocol because, again, all of these things have to be under the guidance of and well supervised and medical guidance. Because again, we've seen that at our service, for example, is weight loss and wellness, but most times we tell people that wellness is what we're really truly after, and weight loss becomes an offshoot of it. Because if you lose 5 to 10% of your weight loss, of your body weight, the number of stats that you reverse already just by doing that is quite so. When we've put you on this diet for you, we've put you on trying to get you onto the ideal weights and stuff. Your body, how you feel internally, it's also what is very, very important. So to answer your question, yes, I've worked with many women and I've seen them reverse their statistics. But again, it's important at what stage, and we're also working with all their other specialists, their endocrinologists, their cardiologists. It's usually kind of like multidisciplinary to ensure, and I've seen women actually come off their medication on the reversal programs.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I mean, today has been really exhaustive, and we are running out of time, so I'm just going to let Dami round off. Over to you, Dami.
All right, thank you. And thank you to Dr. Justina Adeosun for today's free consultation and advice on lifestyle disease are not sudden, how daily habits shape long-term health. If you need to speak to the doctor privately, all you need to do is download the TeleDoc app. You can book a 10-minute consultation or a full 30-minute consultation. Choose your preferred time, speak securely via video through the app. And you can also upload your medical records and receive your prescription digitally.
Yes. Once again, Dr. Justina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I mean, it's interesting to see that we don't have to take drugs. I'm not even a tablet person. I hate it. So if we can do lifestyle changes instead, as long as, but then there's also the case of, oh, is it going to be expensive? Is it going to be the same food I'm eating? But if I'm suspecting that it's the same foods we're eating, because some of our foods can be healthy, like we're just eating it in a different way, I'm all for that. And I'm hoping that somebody has learned something today. Radio Doctor on Women Radio is Nigeria's first specialized radio health program, broadcast Mondays through Fridays at 10 a.m. Join us tomorrow again for another edition of Radio Doctor. Many thanks to the producer, Aisha Sani, and the executive producer, Tom Ukewale Shonaya. My name is Fumi.
My name is Demi.
You have a healthy day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for